Ladies, you all know that I came from the nonprofit world. When I left the military, I got my start in the civilian world, in the nonprofit world, both as staff and volunteer and board member. So I've served in all the capacities. And the nonprofit world is very near and dear to my heart. So that's why it's so important to me to highlight and showcase some of the amazing women that are out there running these organizations. Welcome to the Rebel Tribe, where conformity takes a back seat and rebellion drives the conversation. And my guest today is a leader on both fronts. She has started a wonderful, well, I'm going to say you started it. I don't know if you did, but you had a hand in it. A wonderful new addition to the food pantry out here that I just am in love with. And I would say we kind of rebel against the antiquated notions around food insecurity. So I hope you'll join us for this episode. It's going to be amazing. I'd like you all to meet Sabrina. And I don't know how to say your last name, and I forgot to ask. I'm
It's okay.
bad.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. It's Thiede.
Okay, I'm bad. Okay.
You're good.
That's okay. I have one of those names that I don't, fortunately, I'm married out of that name. So we're all good. Welcome, Sabrina. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I'm
let's
glad to be
let's
here.
get right into it, because as I said, I love the new Feed Rogers. So before we
Mhm.
do anything else, could we please explain what Feed Rogers is? Because I volunteer there. In fact, I'm going to be there again tomorrow. I love Feed Rogers. So could we please explain what it is and why it's so different from the usual concept of food pantries?
Absolutely. So, Feed Rogers, we have affectionately named it a community resource center. And what it is it is a program, technically a program of the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. And so, we wanted to start something where neighbors had full dignity to come in and choose their own groceries, right? So oftentimes with the food pantry model, neighbors and those seeking food assistance would go in and get a pre-packaged box of food. That could be food that their family culturally couldn't eat, health reasons why I couldn't eat, but it was just like, here, you eat this. This is what we have to give you. What Feed Rogers tries to emulate is a full shopping experience for the neighbor. So they get to walk in, they get to, there's no qualifying factors. If you walk in and you tell us that you need groceries at Feed Rogers, you're going to be able to receive groceries at Feed Rogers. And then it's set up, I like to think, Melodian, you can confirm this or not. I like to think it's just like a little neighborhood bodega grocery store. That's what it reminds me of. It's just something you can go in. There are certain limits and things, right? Because when we go to the grocery store, we all have budgets and we all have um, confines of what we can choose and things like that. So each family that comes in gets a budget sheet depending on how many people are in their household. And then they get to freely shop throughout the store and then check out just like they're at a typical grocery store. So someone's not walking along with you, someone's not predetermining the foods that your family gets to eat. And it's just an experience where we're hoping it wasn't so much transactional, but much more like transformative for our families that are
I
shopping with us.
I can vouch for all of that, because I usually volunteer as a greeter because it gives me the best opportunity to actually interact with the people that are coming in, which is what I love. It's what I love to do. I don't want to be behind the scenes. I like to be out there actually talking to the people. And I have heard that as they come in, they are so grateful that they have that little bit of dignity, that it's like a little bit of normalcy in their lives, especially when they bring their children in with them and their children can see them shopping like, like normal people. And I can tell you that makes a difference, because I was a poor family. I've gone to the government food distributions, and it was very embarrassing to be standing in line and somebody shoves a box of food at you, especially if there's people around there, doing their civic duty of handing out the food, and they know you, and you go to school with these people, and now all of a sudden they're shoving a box of government surplus food at you, and it's humiliating and it's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah, and that's really the mentality that we didn't want to have at Feed Rogers. We wanted it to be a community where it was, breaking down those barriers of giver and receiver. It's like we're all in this together. Like there's not a single person that's ever been to Feed Rogers that hasn't had either volunteer or neighbor shopping. And a lot of times our volunteers are people who started shopping with us, and that's their way of giving back. So it's like, it's just a wonderful community, I think, that's been created there. But the reality is, like I said, like everyone's needed help at some point in their life, right? And it's like we just really want to treat people like they're not a burden. That it's not like, oh, I'm doing, like you said, I'm doing my civic duty and I am wanting to just push this bag of food on you. We want to nourish families. I mean, that's our goal, is, and we want to give them foods that they will eat. One of my favorite stories from Feed Rogers was the very first day we were open. There was a little boy in there and he was grocery shopping with his grandmother, and she told him that he could pick any of that. We had multiple cereals on the shelf, and she was like, you get to pick whichever one you want. And he was so excited. He said, are you kidding me? I get to pick whatever cereal I want. He was like, this never happens at the real grocery store. And so I'm sure when he goes to the grocery store that he was told, no, you can't choose those, you can't do that, because I'm sure there's budget restraints or whatever. But the fact that you get to go in there and, like you said, give a kid a typical grocery shopping experience means the world to us that we're able to do that.
And I especially love that you've got the little bitty carts now so they can
Yes,
go
that
shopping.
was such a great
They're
gift
so
from
fun.
our friends at Arkansas Children's Hospital. She emailed me one day and she's like, hey, we have this little cart. She's like, is it something you could use? And I was like, yes, we'll give it a whirl. And it is so fun to watch the kids get that cart and help their parents shop throughout the day.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about food insecurity in general, because there's so many misconceptions about it. Like
Mhm,
it's mostly single welfare moms who don't want to work, and I can tell you what, I have, after being there, I can tell you it is not just single welfare moms. Okay, it's such a wide range of people, and you never know. You just
mhm,
never know what's going to be that one little thing that can tip anybody over into where they might need help, whether it
yeah,
be for a week, a month, long term. You
mhm,
have no idea. I talk to them now. I'm getting to know them and they talk to me and I'm hearing the stories, and you
mhm.
just have no idea. So what exactly, I don't want to say what is food. Yeah, I do. What is food insecurity? People
Yeah,
don't really
food
know what that is.
insecurity. Yeah. So I love this question and hate this question all at the same time. So I love the fact, and I love exactly what you said, is that food insecurity doesn't have a look, right? So like when you're in Feed Rogers or any of our pantries for that matter, there's not a typical look to food insecurity, right? Yes, it could be the single mom. Yes, it could be the both parents are working a minimum wage job. It could be the grandparents that have taken on their grandchildren. There is no look to it. But in Northwest Arkansas specifically, 70,000 of our neighbors are experiencing food insecurity. And food insecurity doesn't mean they're starving and that they haven't eaten in months. It means that they just don't know if they have the means to get their next meal, right? And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we provide access to nutritional food so folks know where they can come. One of I'm a storyteller, so bear with me while we're doing this. But another, an encounter I think of that I had recently at Feed Rogers is I was checking in a guest, and she actually lived in the same neighborhood as where my grandmother had lived. And I was like, oh, you and my grandmother would have been neighbors. Da, 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 da. And she said, oh, does that mean I don't qualify for groceries? And I said, absolutely not. I was like, anybody who comes in here can get groceries. And she said, honey, let me tell you. She said, my husband and I are retired. We own our home. We own our car. And she said, and we had planned on retiring on $70,000 a year. And she's like, you would have thought that two people with a paid house and a paid car could retire on $70,000. She said, my husband was diagnosed with cancer and we were underinsured. And she said, every last penny we have goes to medical bills. And she said, I'm so embarrassed that I have to be here to get groceries. She's like, but I have to be able to feed my family. And I said, yes, ma'am. Like, that is why we are here. We are so thankful that you decided to come in today and shop. But it's like, that's the face of food insecurity right there, is someone who worked their whole lives, saved their whole lives. One unexpected thing happened and it threw their whole world upside down. And so, we can't say what is food insecurity. What does it look like? Because every situation is different.
Now, there are some communities, though, that are surprising, to be honest. As I was doing some research, I discovered that there are some communities that are a little more prone than others, and I found it one disturbing and one surprising. So the one I found slightly disturbing was the veteran community. I had no idea there were so many veterans that don't have enough to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
Mm-hmm.
wrong. Why is that? Okay.
I,
Why are we
you
not feeding
know,
our veterans?
yeah, that's the thing. We actually have the food bank has a really great partnership with Veteran Healthcare of the Ozarks. And we work with them monthly to get them food to get out to their veterans. Part of it, and this is what they've said to us, and so I'm not speaking to this because I know this to be true, but in conversations that I've had, it's almost a pride thing, right? It's a thing where it's like, I can't ask for help. Like, when reality is like, are you kidding me? Are you like, you're not asking for help? This is a way we can help you for the service that you provided us. And so I think that's an issue of that. Um, I really, and I think that we could do a better job of advertising our services out to our community to let them know what actually is available to them. And the better we get at that, my hope is that we will see those numbers go down.
And you'll have to excuse me for getting a little emotional there, but I'm a veteran. My husband's a
No,
veteran. I come from a
yeah,
long line of veterans. So
no,
it's like,
there's
wait a minute, why aren't you taking care of your people? So,
right, right,
and it's not,
absolutely.
so yeah. So the other one I found that surprised me was college kids.
Mhm.
I had no idea. Why are
Yes.
college kids struggling with food insecurity?
So we so we live in an area, right? Just you and I in the area of Northwest Arkansas, and people are like, there's no need in Northwest Arkansas, right? Well, we have a college town in Northwest Arkansas. The U of A actually has one of the fastest growing pantries on a college campus in the country, right? And what I think why I think that is because if you want to do well in school, you can't necessarily have a job because you're focusing on your school. And if you are paying for your own school, then all your money is going to school. And college is expensive. I mean, you and I know college is expensive. So I think that leaves very little money for food left for these kids. They're kids. Most of them are kids. That is, in my opinion, that are still going to school. And so I think that we forget about them. And a lot of young adults, like when they turn 18, their parents just launch them into the world. And if they don't have the resources to budget or the skills to do any of those things, I think that leaves them without extra money for food. And so that's why I think that number is so high. And they don't necessarily qualify for all the other things. One of the things our food bank does is we do a lot of SNAP outreach, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. And a lot of college kids, because for whatever reason, if they're getting financial aid or whatever to go to school, they don't necessarily qualify for SNAP benefits. And so that's just like a tricky thing that has to be navigated as well.
Well, it really surprised me because I just always assumed, when I went to college, I ate in the college cafeteria, and it was part of what you did. The food was not expensive, but it was adequate.
Yeah, and I think and
But
that's the thing too, like, if you think about, like, the University of Arkansas right now, like, there's not even enough places, for kids to live on campus, and so, like, if you're living on campus, can you use the dining halls there? And so that type of stuff goes into play as well. And rent's so expensive, and rent does not even like, I mean, our pay is not increasing at the rate that rent is increasing. And so, I mean, most people, you say an average of 25% of their income goes to rent, but really nowadays it's like 50% of their income is going to rent. So it's just
just a little crazy.
all those
So,
thing we can't. I mean, it's like I could go on tangents about all sorts of things if you wanted me to, but we're here to talk about food, right?
well, yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a shot here at going off on a few things. Now, I don't want to badmouth Arkansas. I've lived here for 30 years now. Oh my gosh. Okay. I've lived here for 30 years. And it's home. I mean, it's home to me. I've had people ask me that question is like, what are you going to do when you retire and everything? And when your husband retires, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to move? And I'm like, no, this is home. Where else would I go? This is home. It's
Yeah.
become my home. I love it here. But in all honesty, we are lacking in some areas, and food insecurity is one of them. We're like number one in the country. The last time I checked, we are like number one in the country for food insecurity. But
Mhm.
that being said, from what I gathered, there isn't a state in the country that doesn't have a problem. Is it that widespread, really? I mean,
Mhm. Mhm. And it's what's and I'll say it's infuriating to me. The reason that our nation is so food insecure is not because the lack of food resources in our community. It's food waste, I think is a huge thing that goes to that. So we as food banks and the charitable food aren't working well enough with different distributors and things like that to glean food for so it's not wasted. And then also, I mean, it takes money to get food out to people who need it, right? And so when so many people are struggling to even just put food on their plates for their families, like there's not extra to give to the food bank to be able to do that for other families. And so it's yes. Here's my thing is, and I don't know if my boss would agree with this or not, but I don't think that we're not going to be in a place where we're ever going to get rid of food insecurity, right? Like we're just never going to be where we can get that. But what we can be is a place where everyone at least for the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank, we can get to a place where people have reliable access to food, right? So we're not going to just be able to help there's always going to be a need for charitable food. But just making sure that we provide the right outlets for people to get that food is what my job is at the food bank as the director of programs, is to make sure that we're providing opportunities for families to come and get food.
well, I have seen that there are quite a lot of different ways that you do reach out into the community. Feed Rogers is one of them, and it's my
Hmm.
personal favorite. But what are some of the other ways? I know I have worked at a mobile food pantry a couple of
Hmm.
times,
Hmm.
and that was interesting.
Yes.
Yes, interesting was the word.
Yes. Our do you remember which location you were at?
I was at one was at Veterans Park in Rogers,
Ooh, yeah, that was a
and
big
the
one.
other one was at the Springdale Senior Center.
Okay. So yes, they've actually changed since you visited them, because they in 2020, obviously when the pandemic hit, we had to figure out a way to get food out to our neighbors that was safe for everybody. And so our mobile pantry program really beefed up. Right now we have 20 different mobile pantries that go throughout our 4 county service area. And where we try to put those is in rural areas where there is not like a Feed Rogers available, like a brick and mortar pantry that's available. So we go and travel to these places once a month, and we just each household gets protein, produce, and then a shelf stable box. I love it because we're able to help so many people in those areas. We're constantly thinking of a way where we can incorporate choice into that, right? So that our neighbors can still have access to the choice to the foods that they want and need for their families. So that's how that works. Last year with our mobile pantry, we served around 24,000 households throughout Northwest Arkansas, which is a lot of households. And we're continually monitoring that program. So how the food bank works is we work with 110 different partner agencies as well, who are like Feed Rogers or your Salvation Armies, those types of places that are getting food out. And so as that partner network is growing, if say we have a mobile pantry in a small rural town and a brick and mortar pantry opens up, we'll probably remove our mobile pantry from that location and look somewhere else where the need is. So that's pretty much how our mobile pantry program works. We have a school pantry program. So we work with schools that have a 60% free reduced lunch or higher, which means 60% of their students are in poverty, living in poverty. And we work with them. Every school gets to choose the way they do it. So if they want to do like a mass distribution once a month, or if they just want to receive food, and then hand it out as they see fit, they can do that. And we also have a school district in our area that does like a little Feed Rogers in their high school. So families can come in and shop and choose the foods that they need. So that's another program that we do that's pretty exciting. What else do we do? And then we work with our agency partners, like I said, in the way that we get food out to those people who are handing out food into the community.
And I love the fact that that you partner with these agencies and these organizations, because I am familiar with one, Flames to Fire, or
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that they just started. I guess it's an order ahead where you can still have
Yeah.
that choice. You can order your groceries and then come pick them up, like, like here's your box. But the
Mm-hmm.
box is full of stuff that you've already ordered, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was cool. And then I guess now they're getting into delivery.
They are. So they're doing, so one of the things that a lot of our partner agencies are doing is, there's households that can't come and get the food for whatever reason. And so we have been able to partner with DoorDash in certain areas. And if there's DoorDash drivers available in there, they can come and pick up the food from the partner agency and deliver it out to the neighbor, which is pretty cool because then you don't have to hire staff to do that. You can create a partnership with another company that's willing to do that with you. So we actually do that through Feed Rogers too. Every week we do about 25 deliveries through Feed Rogers. It's through order ahead. They get to go choose the groceries that they want, and then they can get deliveries on Tuesdays.
Well, I love the fact that you do this, because these agencies and organizations, I'm not sure that they would be able to do these things if they didn't have the
Mhm.
support of the overall Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. So that's
Yes.
exciting that you're there to support them.
That is our hope. Our hope is that we are there to support them in whatever way they need. They're doing the hard work. You know it. You show up to volunteer at Feed Rogers. You know that it takes a small army to get that thing going and operational every week. And so whatever we can do to back them and to support them, we really want to do that.
So let's talk a little bit about volunteering now that you're on it, because
Yeah.
volunteering has been shown. I mean, like my husband's getting ready to retire. We're at that age now. And
Mhm.
so I've been reading all of the things naturally about how to have a happy, healthy retirement and blah, blah, Okay. One of the
Yes.
things, and there's
Yes.
100 opinions about what to do and, how to eat and what to do. But the one thing I saw consistently on every list, and it's even on, I'm a big believer in that blue zones thought about, the things that you need to do to stay healthy.
Mhm.
But one of the things that's on every list, including that one, is volunteerism.
Mhm.
So what is it about volunteering, especially, like I said, I love coming to Feed Rogers. I've gone to some of the other things that you guys do, and I will choose Feed Rogers every time because I just love being there. What
Yeah.
makes it so special for the volunteers?
I think what makes it special, especially in the food insecurity realm, is that you can see the immediate impact you're having on a family, right? And so the purpose, like, you can come to our warehouse and volunteer and you can pack boxes that are going to go out to our mobile pantry and things like that, which is we need that. We need people that are willing to do that. But when you can actually be face to face with a neighbor and see that immediate impact in the way that you can see that look of like almost anxiousness go to hope at the end of their visit. I think that's what makes it so special. And it almost is like, that's a purpose. That's a purpose why I'm here. That's a purpose why I'm getting to show up here today and what keeps me going. So for me, that's why I think it's so important to volunteer. I love to volunteer in my own personal life because I love to go to things that I'm not in charge of, right? Because my whole life has been orchestrating events for other people to volunteer at. But I love the idea of getting to go somewhere and really feel like you're making an impact. And at Feed Rogers specifically, you make that immediate impact on a household.
Again, I have seen that because there's been a couple times when I've been there when families have walked in and there's like, I'm new to the area, or something just happened and I have no food. Can I get some today? And I've been at most places where they're like, no, not today. It's not our day. It's the end of it. But they come in there and they're like, can I get food today? And the answer is yes. Even if we
Mhm,
don't have an appointment, sit
mhm.
tight. I'll sneak you in.
Right, right. Oh, you're gonna have people beating down the doors on the days you're there now.
Somebody may, somebody may glare at me there, but Sit tight, I'll
No,
get
that
you in.
yes, and that's the thing, like, we never I tell my team that at the food bank all the time. The worst thing that could happen today at Feed Rogers is that for me, as far as, like, your job is concerned, is that someone would leave here feeling like they weren't treated respectfully and without food. And so we're gonna do whatever we can to make sure that that neighbor gets food when they walk in. Sometimes we don't have those walk-in appointments, and sometimes it's the end of the day, and we really just don't have the means to do that, but you're gonna leave with an emergency box. We're gonna make sure that you leave with some sort of food that day to get you through till we can get you in for a shopping appointment.
And I have seen, I mean, one family waited for almost 2 hours until there was a lull in the crowd that I felt comfortable. It's like, okay, go ahead now. Okay.
Yeah, right.
No one will
Push
know. Go now,
them
go
through.
now.
Push them through.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean, and
but
that's what
I
we need. We need people like you that really care about the work that you're doing and that see the importance of the work that you're doing and do it with a willing spirit. So we need more people like you, Melodian, in the world that are willing to do that.
well, I was just pleased because I could see, like you said, I could see the immediate at first when I told them I didn't have any openings, that we were just full up, and I could just see the look of despair. It's like, what am I
Hmm.
going to do? It's like,
Hmm.
just go have a seat over there. Let me see what I can do. And he sat patiently for 2 hours with his child, his daughter. And they just sat there for like 2 hours until we could finally squeeze him in. And the look on their faces when they were walking around shopping was just, it's like, yes, if you're willing to sit there for 2 hours and then I can see the look on your face as you're picking up food, just
Hmm.
yes, you have no idea of the impact you're making when you're doing these things. So
Yeah.
so now you get to make your pitch for money, for volunteers, for food donations, for whatever you need, because we need it. Okay.
Yeah.
We need it.
It's all the things, I mean, it's not free, like I said earlier, to give out free food. And so we at the food bank are very proud of our stewardship with the money that we use, and that it goes back into for every dollar that is given to the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank, we can provide 3 meals back into our community. And so we're really proud of that. The fact that we can do that in the way that we do things, and you can make a big impact with that. So, of course, we'd love your donation dollars. That's how we continue to get to do the things that we do. Volunteer time is just as important. So, they say that the average value of a volunteer per hour is close to $28. And so, we are so grateful for all of our volunteers, and we are constantly needing more volunteers. So, and we have Melodian, you said you're comfortable on the front lines. You're comfortable visiting with those neighbors and seeing them face to face. If that's your jam, Feed Rogers is a perfect place for you. We have plenty of opportunities for you to get those hands on, face to face interactions. If that's not your thing, if you're a behind the scenes person, we have a distribution warehouse where we have volunteers Monday through Friday that we have come and do different things, who pack those order ahead orders that are going out to those neighbors. So you're getting a pick list and you're getting to fill those boxes. You're getting to help fill the mobile pantry boxes or the school pantry things that get sent out. Or even, sometimes we get huge bulk orders of apples that we need put into 5-pound bags of apples. So there's always things to do behind the scenes there. And our website has all of our volunteer opportunities. It's just nwafoodbank.org/volunteer. And it'll present to you all the different opportunities we have there to do that. But we couldn't do what we do without our volunteers, and we couldn't do what we do without our donations. So if you ever want to talk more about that, feel free to reach out to me, or I'm happy to discuss what we can do.
And for those that are not local, I'm sure your food pantry in your community needs money and needs volunteers. So go forth and give money and volunteer, because I'm sure they can use
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, find your local food bank. I know that there's over 200 different food banks in the Feeding America network. So, find the one that's closest to you in your area. If it's not a food bank, I'm sure there's a food pantry that could really use your support. So, go out and do it. You won't regret it. I promise.
It's good for your health. It's on every
Yes.
list of how to live healthily and longer. So it's on that list. Go do it. But
Yes.
could you explain one thing though that you did mention in it? I know it's a question that I've heard before. When you said $1 will provide 3 meals, I cannot
Mhm.
go to the store and buy 3 meals for $1. So how does that
You
work?
cannot. So how it works is we have a buying power because we are partners with Feeding America. We have a buying power that allows us to purchase foods at extremely deep discounts. And so there is a Feeding America online portal that we can go on and we can order groceries and do those things to get the donations into you. We use that to statistics because Feeding America says that 1.2 pounds of food equals a meal. And so that's where we get that figure is $1 provides 1.2 pounds worth of food.
Okay, I needed you to explain that because a lot of people think, well, I can only give a $5 or I can't, I can't, it's not worth anything because I can't give enough to make a difference. But
Yeah.
$5 feeds 15, that's 15 meals, people.
Yes.
15
It makes a
meals.
huge difference. And that's the mentality that I'm like, listen, we have kids who bring us their change or things like that. Every little bit makes a difference. There is our $1 donations mean just as much to us as our $100 or $1,000 donations. Every bit is worthy of donating, and we'll make sure we put it to good use.
Do we have any fundraisers coming up? Isn't something's coming up? Northwest Arkansas Gives, isn't that soon?
NWA Gives is coming
Yes.
up. So be watching our social medias, which is just Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. We're gonna put out a goal for NWA Gives Day. That's really the development team that does that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, "Ooh, I'm not so sure what's going on there, but I know that we are participating in it this year. And so that's going to be a big fundraiser that we're doing. But I also know we're going to do this thing that's really fun. We did it last year for the first time, and it's called NWA Game Show Battle. And it's like a family feud type event where we work with different vendors, and they come in and they compete to be the champion of the game show battle. But you can buy a ticket as a spectator. It's a really fun night. It's actually an afternoon. It's food, drinks. You get a really good swag bag, and it's just a really fun night or afternoon for you to come together as a community and just help support the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank. That's going to be on April 24th. It's going to be at the 4 Point Sheraton in Bentonville. You can once again go to our website, go to our socials, and find out how to get tickets for that.
Sweet. I didn't know that was happening. I need to get tickets. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really last year I loved it, so I'm excited.
Well, Sabrina, I'm so glad you came and talked to us today. Like I said, supporting the nonprofits, it's a big deal to me. I've been part of so many that I just believe in what they do. There's so many people that would be left without
Mhm.
so many things if it weren't for the nonprofit community, and especially the food banks and the food pantries, and the just what you do is amazing. So I am so glad that you were my first nonprofit on my brand new podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. I love that you champion for us and that we have great people like you in the world that really see the importance of the work that's being done and that you're willing to step on those front lines with us. So thank you for inviting me and letting us talk about this.
And I am going to post links to the food bank and anything else that Sabrina wants me to share. I will be putting that in the description of the video and the podcast. So feel free to click on those and help us out.
Yeah.
You never know when you might be the person that goes, I don't have enough to eat tonight. Where am I going to get some food? I have learned that by volunteering, because I admit I was one of those ones that had that misconception of who goes to the food pantry. And I have learned that it doesn't take much for you to be the next person standing there asking, can you help me? Thank you, Miss Sabrina.
Yes,
And
thank
and
you.
are you gonna be there tomorrow? I will be there tomorrow. Are you gonna be there
Yes,
tomorrow?
I will be there tomorrow, so I'll see you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yay.
Thanks for talking to us.
Yes, ma'am.